All right. Welcome, everybody, to another Wednesday night conversations with Cougars. And you see that Cougar spirit. My guest is Erin Howell. She was one of I think maybe the third or fourth Goldie mascot in
That's
Northview
right.
history. And she's got over her shoulder megaphone and some other stuff. That's awesome. Welcome, Erin. I appreciate you making some time tonight for us.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. Go Cougars, as always.
Go Cougars. And this is going to be a lot of fun. And as if you've seen any of our past shows, including the one that I did with my classmate, Jerry Wright, she was the original Goldie and gave us the origin story and all that great stuff. And I know that you, with all your Cougar spirit and school spirit, proudly wore the uniform, the costume, whatever you
All of
got.
it.
Well, before we jump back into the early 90s during your time at Northview, Erin, catch us up. Tell us about your beautiful family and what you're doing these days and where you live and all that good stuff.
Hey, lots going on there. I'm married 24 years.
Congrats.
I have two children. We are in enterprise now. One is a rising 10th grader. His name's Eli. He's in ROTC and he has been promoted twice this year. Very proud of that. And my daughter, she's Sarah Kate, and she is in show choir and she does pageants. But all of a sudden last month, she said, Mom, guess what I'm going to do? And I said, oh no, what are you going to do? Is this going to be bad or what? And she says, I'm going to try out for mascot. And I went, okay, really? And I'm like, well, I can help you out with that.
Yep.
And so we had got our forms and all our stuff. And she's like, okay. And the night before she went, it'll be okay, right? I went, it'll be fine. It'll be totally fine.
What grade will she be in?
And she made it. And she will be the Miss EHS Wildcat because we moved to Enterprise. Sorry, Northview people.
That's all right.
That's okay. It'll be fun.
And what grade will she be in this fall?
She will be a junior.
Junior. That is so awesome. It runs in the family, and she's got a lot to live up to. But I know you're gonna let her form her path and figure it out. But that's awesome. She has you for backup. That's so cool.
We love it. We're excited. Everything's happening for her and my son too. But this is more fun for me.
Well, very good. Besides being a proud mama of two kids at Enterprise High School and married 24 years, and hopefully getting a little rest here and there. I know you also have a job or a business that you run. So tell us a bit about that too.
I own the Clean Queen. It's a cleaning company and it's just myself. Mm-hmm. And so I go around clean houses and businesses. And when COVID hit, I closed down for a little while, then opened back up. Most of my clients came back. And then I started cleaning COVID out of businesses. So that's been real fun in the past year.
Wow. Wow. I know you've been very, very busy. If you have a business card, I'm going to encourage you, if you haven't done it already, please post it in our Facebook group. I'm trying to promote all the businesses of Cougar alums so we can network. And there's just so many of us, not just in the Wiregrass area, but throughout the state and in the Southeast, that I think it would be a really good thing that we could network from a business standpoint. But now let's back up. Let's go to the fall of 1991.
Whew, that's a something.
Year. Where were you coming from? What school had you been in for middle school?
I'd been at Honeysuckle Middle School, and that was an experience like all 6th, 7th, 8th graders back then. That was the middle schools. Mm-hmm. And coming in Northview, it was a big, scary school.
It was for a lot of people. Now, where did you grow up at that time? Where was your family living?
We were in Dothan, around Watley Drive, Westgate Parkway area, all that good stuff. And I grew up there my whole life. And it was just next thing on the list to go to was high school. It was fun.
Now, Erin, where are you in the order of siblings? Did you have siblings, or are you the only child?
I was an only child at my house, and it was me and my mom growing up, and it was just us two.
You had full attention from mama. That's awesome. And
Yes.
Erin, one of your classmates, Jason Mullins, has signed on and says to tell you hello.
Love.
All right, let's talk about Honeysuckle. Did you play sports in the band? Were you a mascot in Honeysuckle? Well, tell us a little bit about that part.
No, the only thing I did is SGA and was class representative a couple of years. And I did saxophone in Miss Whetstone's band in the middle school.
Excellent.
She was too.
Excellent. Now, you come over to Honeysuckle, and did you have, from Honeysuckle, did you have classmates, some of your buddies who were also with you in middle school who came over to Northview?
Oh, yes, definitely. We had Kristen Retzky, I think she's McCracken now, and we had Monica Kellum, and we just had a whole bunch of different people and everybody just coming over, and Carrie Ellis, Sarah Forrester, just a guy.
That had to have helped a little bit, being in not just completely by yourself, but as part of a group. But then when you go over there, we all, at least back in our day, your homeroom was based on your name in the alphabet.
Right.
And then your schedule, you just kind of went everywhere. So what do you remember, if anything, about those first few days, weeks, or months as a freshman on this humongous campus?
Well, I lived next door to Marlene Coleman, and she was Miss Everything at Northview, and I was like, whew, got a lot to live up to there. And she was fun, and we always did stuff together, and she was instrumental in a lot of things with me. I came up to there thinking, okay, I'll just do band. It's okay. I really don't need to be a cheerleader. I'm fine. It's okay. Then Marlene was there and Jennifer was there, and they were talking about mascot tryouts, and I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. Do I really want to do that? And Jennifer and Tracy Boff were cheerleaders at the time and said, sure you do. And I'm like, okay, that's fine too.
And Erin, was it based more on your love of the school, on the love of the band or football? Where was this coming from?
All of it. And I was a ninth grader, and I needed to find something to do, and that I didn't want to just do band. I wanted to kind of just do it all. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that was okay. And I was in choir. I joined choir, and I decided to go to concert band instead of marching on the field band. And so that's kind of how I led into that. And it was a really fun time.
Well, tell us about the tryouts, because I know that had to have been a nerve-wracking, a little bit stressful. Who conducted it and those kind of things? Okay,
well, Coach Andrews' wife, Miss Andrews, at the time was the cheerleading sponsor. And so they announced on the intercom, with announcements every day, we're going to have mascot tryouts after school. Come join if you want to. I went, okay, that works for me. And so I decided to go down to the big old scary gym in ninth grade. And it was me and Dawn Lund, and Miss Andrews said, okay, here's all the forms you fill out, and you need to make a fun routine. And you need to make it interesting. And I went, okay, all by myself? Really? Okay, never did that before. And so I went to Marlene and I went, help, help me figure it out. What do I do? And so she and I went through some songs together, and she helped me make my routine up. And I went, okay, this will work. It was Splish Splash. I was taking a bath by Bobby Darin, way on back. And I had a bathtub that was a pool, like a kiddie pool, and I had bath rubber duckies, and I had a saxophone because there's a saxophone part. And I just went prop crazy. And I just brought that to my routine, and Dawn did her routine, and then we had a great time after that. And Dawn and I were talking after tryouts, and Dawn said to me, and Miss Andrews said, well, just thinking about it, do you want to, one of you do football games and one of you do pep rallies? And I was going like, I don't know if I want to just do one or the other. I wasn't quite sure. Again, big city school, you're a ninth grader coming in, and Dawn Lund had been doing it 2 years, and she was in with the quarterback club, and I was like, I don't know, what do I do?
So she was a rising, or she was a junior when you tried out as a ninth grader?
Right, and she'd been doing it 2 whole years before me.
Right. Well, clearly whatever you showed Mrs. Andrews at that time got her attention. So what did you guys decide? How did it play out for your freshman year?
Okay. Well, it was came time for the Moultrie game. It was our first game of the year, hot as Hades. And Dawn came to me because that was an away game. And it was our first away game. I'd never been to an away game before. I didn't know what that was about. I hadn't been to cheerleading camp. I didn't really know the cheers because we hadn't had a pep rally yet. Right. And that was because the first 2 games were out of town. And she came to me around a little bit before lunch and in the hallway and said, I'm just not feeling it today. And I went,
oh boy.
What do you mean you're just not feeling it today? And she said, I think I'm going to go tell Miss Andrews that you need to go to Moultrie and do this game.
And this was the day of the game.
This is like 11, 12 o'clock on the first day of the Moultrie game out of town.
You had not worked with the cheerleaders or the band getting ready from the standpoint of being Goldie.
Oh. That was kind of scary. And I went,
right. But ultimately, did you go to Moultrie?
Ultimately, Erin went to Moultrie and got on the school bus and sat there and learned cheers for an hour.
Wow.
Sitting there trying to learn motions on a bus with the pom-poms, and had only been in the costume one time for tryouts.
Let's talk about that costume for just a second. Obviously, over the last 25, 30 years or 40 years, that costume changed several times. The original one that Jerry had, I don't know if you were still using it by then, but Jerry's had a gigantic head, and it just flopped down and sit on the shoulders. There was no neck. And Jerry said it was hot, it was heavy, it smelled, it was just awful. But
yes.
By the time you came through, had they changed it? Had they updated it at all?
They had gotten an official, one from varsity cheer mascot training, an official Goldie, but it looked the same. It looked like it'd been custom, and it kind of looked the same. It kind of had that big, huge, giant head out here and the strap that goes over your neck and this long costume thing. And it's August, and you are dying because by that point, games were starting August 31st. Last week in August, by the time I was there, you were playing your first game.
And it's got to be in South Georgia still 90 plus degrees at 7 o'clock at night when there's kickoff, and you're in uniform or costume at least 30 minutes or more before that.
No, yes, you get in the costume before games. You do your pregame warm up with the team. They come running out. You're doing that. Then it's the first 2 quarters of the game. And I just have learned these cheers as a ninth grader going, what did I sign up for?
But Erin, even with all of that stress and that craziness, how awesome was it that first game for you?
Fabulous. I wanted more.
And I bet that's what Mrs. Andrews was banking on right there.
Yes.
That you would look past and get through all the adversity of how hot it was. You didn't know the cheers. It was your school spirit, and it was your desire to be there and to root on your teammates and classmates and for your school. And that was the birth of you being Goldie right there.
Right there. Had me hook, line, and sinker. I went home that night going, I'm going to do this forever.
Well, how did your freshman year go as being Goldie? How awesome was it? Or was it, did you have ups and downs, or was it pretty good?
Well, the first 2, we weren't feeling it games were out of town. We went to Moultrie, and I think the next was Phoenix City. And it was all for a freshman coming in. It was learning these schools, learning who these schools were, because as a, honeysuckle person coming in, it was a learning curve. I guess you would say the whole year was a learning curve.
Yeah, because in 8th grade, you had Girard and Beverly and Carver and maybe one or two other schools, and that's about it.
Right. You weren't doing very much.
Well, I want to pause you because Shirley C says to tell you hello.
Hello, loved her. She was great. Always there if you needed anything, needed a question answered, help. She'd help.
Erin, I got news for you. She's still there. She's still there if you
I'm
need.
sure she is rocking it.
Mrs. C shows up for every one of these Wednesday nights, and she is the memory of our school and of our football program. And
Right.
I'm so pleased that she's reconnected with all of us and is participating with this. So thank you, Mrs. C. But Erin, your freshman year, you're learning these schools. You're out of town for the first 2 games. Let's go to Rip Hughes in the 3rd game, your first game at home. Was Dawn feeling it by this point, or were you now Goldie?
Well, every other game she was feeling it. And by this time, kind of like it was our first pep rally. I think that was we were past that. We're at Carroll. And that was getting closer to homecoming. I was kind of learning the school, learning my teachers, and learning how to do this and doing cheer. That was 6th period back in the day, was cheer. And I think football maybe it was 6th period. Everything kind of happened late.
It was back then.
Okay. All right. And so I was learning how to do that. And by the 3rd home game, she went, I think you need to do the pep rally now.
Who says this to you?
Dawn says this to me.
Wow.
Like early in the morning. And
Right.
So here we are. I'm going like, okay, that's fine. And so you go into the pep rally and you get ready and you have all this stuff and you have your megaphone by that point. They get you your megaphone and everything. And you walk into that and that's your first pep rally as a freshman ever.
Wow.
And
Now,
so
I
that
want
was
you to
fun.
describe the scene as best you can recall. You're a freshman. You know how loud that gym, or maybe you don't yet know how loud that gym can be for pep rallies, but you very quickly learn. I know you're learning some routines, maybe your choreography for something that's going on for the pep rally skit or theme.
Right, you are.
And somehow you're maintaining your grades or figuring out from an academic standpoint.
You're trying at that point.
Yeah, we're 9th grade. We got to maintain our grades if we want to continue to be Goldie. So there's probably not a lot of sleep going on by you at this point.
No, not really, because I was still in choir. That was a class, and I was still in band, and that was my concert class with Mr. Christian.
Wow.
And then you have your English with Cynthia Henderson, and it's AP, and it's fast. And then you had Miss Peterman for, I think that was 9th grade science, I believe. And that's advanced and you got to go fast. And so there was no sleep happening in my house.
That was 30 years ago, and I'm exhausted listening to what you had to go through. But I know you did it with such enthusiasm. So take us to that pep rally. How awesome was that, hearing all of the students, the student body in the gym for the pep rally?
That was amazing because you walk in, it is loud. It is, you go, wow, because all your freshman friends are way up, at that time. I don't know if they do at your time, but
Did your close group of friends know that was you, not Dawn, performing? Had you told them?
I can't remember that exactly. I know like Marlene Coleman and all the cheerleaders knew, and everybody like that knew because we were getting dressed together and I was learning cheers by that point. And so they knew. And so it was like freshman here, sophomore here, junior here. And of course you got your seniors over here.
Right.
And so that was learning where your friends were and learning how to cheer. So when the spirit stick was going on, which side, and remembering which side as a freshman,
right.
remembering who the ninth graders were, 10th graders were, 11th graders were, and okay, here's your 12th graders one, because you could really tell who the 12th graders were by that point. And that was a whole lot of fun.
Oh, that's so great. So great. Well, staying throughout that freshman year, did you end up being Goldie for other sports or other occasions, either on or off campus representing the school?
My first year, I was mainly an on-campus person.
Mhm.
It was football. It was some of the state like dinners before, they know that Friday, the Cougar Club or Quarterbacks Club or that thing. We did two of those, and then I did a lot of basketball games. And for me, learning how to do this to begin with and how it was supposed to work out, I was mainly, my first year, I kind of kept home and trying to learn the job.
Sure, sure. But I know that in later years that Goldie would go to events, fundraisers, or other things in the community representing our school, just like I'm sure Dothan High's mascot did the same. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But guys, I'm talking with Erin Howell. She was Goldie in the early 90s, 91 through 94, 95 graduate of Northview. And as you can see behind her, that school spirit is still in her house. And she also just told us that her up and coming 11th grade daughter is going to be the school mascot in Enterprise, where they live. And she goes to Enterprise High School. So the tradition in the family lives on. Now, I want to ask you the best of times and the worst of times of being Goldie. Did you have, and as you're thinking of this, we'll start with the best of times. What made you the most proud? What was an event, or was there a particular event that really just fills your heart even now because of the position that you represented and who you represented at the time that you were Goldie?
Right. The best of times, I was already a volunteer like through Wesley Manor, and they were doing, starting their Alzheimer's care and dementia. And I was already volunteering, and I was already helping out just to do something on Saturday because my Fridays were cheer. And, my mom wanted me to keep out of trouble or whatever. And so she worked at First Methodist Church, and they were tied into Wesley Manor really well at the time. And so they asked me my sophomore year, I think, they asked me to go and dress up in my costume and go help with their senior activities. Like, I guess would be bingo and writing cards and, just being there to lift the senior citizens who were there 24 hours a day, having something to do.
Now, when you would do events like this, did you remain mute, or were you permitted to talk?
You were permitted to do your moves and stuff and just like shake their hands like you would a child at the football game before game time. You go up to kids and they're all like, woo, who are you? Let's take pictures and blah, blah, blah. And the same was true for these senior citizens because they were in skilled nursing and they were like, ooh, somebody's fun here. And we, stuff like that.
Gotcha. All right. So some of the best of times were you representing the school in the Goldie costume in the community.
Right.
Whether it was for events, like you said, at Wesley Manor, or maybe fundraising events or charitable events. I could see where that would fill you with pride back then and now. And I bet you even talked about this a little bit with your daughter about what she may be doing in the future for the school and in the community. Now, I have to ask, because I asked about the best of times, what was the worst of times? Did you ever get run over by football players? Did you ever have an accident like that where you just were in the wrong place at the right time?
Okay, well, I have a picture. I don't know if you can see, but it's me and the Dothan High Tiger. We formed a friendship and we'd go to each other's prep rallies and schools back and forth between each other, and we'd play fight. Like I'd win at my school, she'd beat me at her school, and that was fine. And several other schools mascots before the game, I'd go talk to them and say, do you want to have fun? Do you, I'm okay if you don't, that's fine. Let's just, play like we're fighting each other during the game, like the football players are fighting themselves on the field. Why not? Sure. But this one girl who was from Bay in Florida, they came up and she thought, we didn't talk before the game, but she thought she could come over and she could really beat you up. Like,
this was a home game for Northview.
Right. And she came over to our side.
You weren't in Bay County in Panama City at her place.
Right. At my home turf. And I'm going like, no. Yeah, that's like the worst at times is when you get a couple of those who thought they could come to our side of the turf and really have a fight. And when I was doing it, it was fun. It was like, hey, we're just going to lightly jab each other, go like this and say, yeah, we're the best. And yeah, we're going to beat you. And you're going to maybe beat us. But no, that was the bad time, was when the girls really thought they could beat you down.
Wow, I never knew something like that took place. Now, I know that back in the day, I don't know if they still do it, where at halftime, the cheerleaders will get together and they'll go to one sideline or the other. Is that the time that the mascots would also come together?
Yes. It was all out of respect, and most, except for a couple, most did the respectful thing and go to each other's side, and we hung out and talked and got water, and it was fine. It was great.
Now, how, I have to ask, you couldn't take the head off. How did you consume water? How did
at Rick it had that big old long wall, and then you had the cheerleaders in the field. You came to the wall and sat down.
Okay.
And you took it off where those people up here couldn't see you. Maybe the visitor side could see you, but they really didn't there. And so you sit there and drink your water, and then you go to the bathroom in your costume at Riverview Stadium to go to the bathroom, and you're taking it off in there thinking, in August, you're thinking you're dying. In December, you're going like, this is the best thing ever.
Erin, I'm just asking the questions that people want to know the answers to. That's just sharing some insider Goldie information. That's great. Now, what was it? I've partially asked this a little bit, but even 25 plus years later, you still have that same spirit in you. And I bet it's not just for our school. It's not just for your times there. It's probably for a lot of things in your life. Just feels like your personality is that way. And I think that's spectacular. But here's my question. When you're looking through old yearbooks, or you're looking at all the memorabilia that's behind you and us getting ready for today, what puts a smile on your face about Northview, about those times back then?
That, we were all as a cohesive group. Nobody was really thinking they were better than anybody else. Like the football team was all a consistent group, and we were all for each other. We weren't trying to stab each other in the back. We were all a group. We went to functions together. We had the Christmas party together for the cheerleaders. And then at the end of the year, when you got these lovely things at the big party by the quarterback club, we were all together. It was all fun, and it was all together. And that's what I feel like is a group. And I hate that we miss our school now that it's gone, is because we have these memories of being together and as a group. And we loved each other through it. And no matter if we had a great year, like as my senior year, we went to playoffs and went lots of rounds until Anniston came along. And then we had my sophomore year where we didn't do so great and we didn't go to playoffs. But we were still for Northview, and it was still great. And we were still a unit. And it wasn't like, well, okay, we had a bad year, now we stink. Or we just all loved each other through it. No matter if it were great, it was wonderful. It was bad, it was still wonderful, because we were all there for each other. And I like that.
That's the very best of high school years. And those are memories that no one will ever take from you. And there were, of course, with every coming of age story in high school, there's ups and downs. I get that. But hopefully whatever was bad at that time kind of fades. Whatever was good comes to the front. But speaking of what is good, I got some folks with some shout outs for you, Erin. Damon Glasgow is watching. Hey, Damon, good to see you, bud. I want to get you on the show. Martin Andrews says to tell you hello.
All right. Those my boys back in the day, all together as a group.
Randy Birdsong Bortak says to tell you hello and says,
it's been forever
love Cougar spirit and love sharing the sidelines with you.
Oh, I love sharing the sidelines with you too. It was fabulous. You took me in as a freshman and loved on me and everything. And I will love all my juniors and seniors who took in a freshman and said, you're on varsity squad with us for the rest of the year, and loved on me. That was just about the best thing a freshman could ever ask for, because that you're on varsity for me, everybody else is different, but personally for me, I stayed on varsity for 4 years. That's a great deal.
Let's talk a little bit about the cheer squads that you were on and Mrs. Andrews. And you're right, Randy, Friday nights were the best. They really were. And when you were a freshman, let me ask it this way. Did you detect maybe some jealousies by ninth graders? And here's where I'm going with this. And I'm not trying to start something that's not there, but you found some success with older students immediately by being accepted onto the varsity squad.
Right.
And you're the only ninth grader. It's a big honor.
Yes.
And now you're getting friendships with students who are juniors and seniors. Normally that doesn't happen like that to the average student. So talk to us a little bit about that. You still have a very close friendship group in your ninth grade and you're in classes with them, but then you leave them in sixth period or after school and go hang out with the kids who could drive and things like that. How was that? And how did Mama take that?
Well, because I hung out with my next door neighbor, Marlene Cole, and my mama thought it was pretty great and handled it pretty well.
And what year was Marlene your freshman year?
She was a junior.
Okay, so she was 2 years ahead of you.
Right.
So immediately you've got an in and Mama feels okay about that.
Oh, Mama loves it. Marlene was great and was, like I said, missed everything at the high school, and she was a good cheerleader, and she was like your mama. She'd tell you if you were doing good. She'd tell you if you were not doing so great. Love that about her, and it was just welcoming for me. I had, if you had the junior high cheerleaders, JV cheerleaders, I still saw them. They still had cheerleading period, 6th period too. And so it was just who was making banners for what team. And it was, to me, like I said before, I think as a group, we were all there together for each other in all sports and all activities. And that to me meant the world. So I don't think there really was any animosity per se, because I think we were all there because we were there for Northview to win.
Oh, that's exactly right. That's the way it should be. Now I don't want to fast forward through all 4 of your years, but I want to take you to your senior year. Regardless if you're in band or play another sport or don't play any sports, it's your last go around. And there's a lot of, it can be emotional at times. And particularly when you get to the end of a football season, a basketball season, your last events as a senior in high school, you may never do it again. Most folks, most athletes in high school, you get emotional.
Oh,
Well, take us through part of your senior year, things that you remember about that year that made it a special year for you.
Okay, well, by that point, we had gotten a new mascot uniform my junior year because the other one had gotten so threadbare, it was not even funny, and you could not even breathe in this big old head out here.
Well, I hope this next one was a little more aerodynamic and allowed for the airflow and was lighter.
Right, exactly. And it was different. And I was going okay, I had to get used to that. But by my senior year, I was doing still Wesley Manor. I was going to almost every stag luncheon at the quarterbacks club was doing. At that point was being called by radio stations to go do remotes with them and for them. either in my uniform or theirs.
And did the Goldie costume just stay in your car? Did you have a car as a
It
senior?
stayed in my bedroom for, well, I should say this though. We did have the tryout my freshman year. My
Mhm.
junior year, 3 people tried out against me.
Mhm.
I was like, okay. And sorry, that was my sophomore year. My junior year, nobody came to tryouts but
I
me.
was going to say by now it's your territory. Nobody's going to dethrone
Uh,
you.
don't come,
That's
stay
right.
home. And then by my senior year, nobody at all came to that interest meeting, period.
No.
That costume was in my house for 4 years. I felt like I owned it. But I was excited, and of course you're the big man on campus by that point, and you have learned that some of the football players during the pep rallies and all that senior section was going to rush that pep rally court and pick you up and do this with you, and you're going like this. You learned it by this point. You were expecting it. It wasn't like your freshman year. You were ready. And so
Erin, let me pause you real quick. If anybody has videos from those pep rallies back then, please post them. I know how hard those cheerleaders worked, and we only have a few snippets of different pep rallies over the years. Some of the routines, some of the cheers that we've posted the videos on. And Brandy just has another comment that I wanted to share with you, and we'll get back to you what you were saying about making banners is what Brandy's talking about. And she saved pieces of them in a Northview scrapbook. And Brandy, I'm begging you, if you have any of those still, please take photos and post what you've got. She said that it took months to make those and that you guys had a lot of fun making those banners.
it took a long time for banners back then.
Go back to the pep rally where you're getting passed around overhead. What was that about?
Well, like you were talking about like my freshman year. Of course, I don't know what to expect during the big school pep rally because, of course, you did the middle school pep rally and it was just okay, and it wasn't big and dramatic. It didn't last all 6th period. It lasted for like 15 minutes, and you were gone for the day. And so the first time it happened, I had to ask. I went, "What happened?" I'm like, because you get rushed and you get picked your whole costume and your whole self, and they take you around that gym a couple times, rush like you rushed the field when you win. And I did not know that was a going on thing.
Erin, how did the head stay on when you're getting passed around?
Strap. You have a strap
Gotcha.
that's across your neck here, and you have, because to make it stay on when you're doing like this or like this in a cheer or whatever, it has to stay on, and so it has to be like the hardest thing, and you get marks here and you get
I was
marks.
going to say, yeah.
It's everywhere and it's crazy, but you love it, and it's exciting. And by my senior year, I was loving it.
Oh, those are some awesome memories. Now let me take you inside the school for a little bit.
Okay.
Tell us about some of your favorite teachers or classes or places within the school that you enjoyed hanging out or seeing your friends.
Oh, well, the commons area, of course, because by the time I was there, the lockers were gone out of the middle and they were all around the wall. And that's where you hung out on break. And that's where you hung out sometimes after lunch and things like that. So that's kind of where y'all hung out. That was kind of like the hangout by that point. And so you saw everybody there. And sometimes you even had events like we had an event before pep rally there where we had Mr. Hardy come out and do some things, and he was talking, and you had a little like pre-pep rally, I guess, because those stairs going up to Hardy's and Miss C's office, we had some events there, like getting ready for different things. And so that was always fun and exciting.
What about teachers or classes that you particularly enjoyed?
Okay, well, of course, I love choir. It's the easy A, but I love Miss Foster, and she was great. And Mr. Christian was great as well for band. And some of my favorite teachers for English was Miss Cynthia Henderson. She was AP and hard, but you did your work and you moved on. And let's see, let me think. Miss Peterman, she was a good science teacher, and Mr. Helms, and let's see, Norma Spivey. Loved me some Norma Spivey. She was
Miss
great.
Ivy loved our school. She loved to go to the ball games and just she had as much school spirit. And so did Mr. Helms. They were two of my teachers as well.
Lots of maps in Mr. Helm's class that you had to draw by yourself and not trace because he knew you traced somehow. I'm going like, how did you do that? How did you know? And you learn, don't trace.
That's right. That's exactly right. Mr. Helms taught me how to take a final in college by using blue books. Did you guys use blue books for your tests?
I don't remember. It's been a while.
I do, and until 2 moves ago, I still had some of mine from high school. But yeah, those blue books taught me how to take tests in college.
Right. Norma Spivey, she helps with debate club and she would get you prepared for debate like nobody I've ever seen before. And she was always there. If you had a question and you weren't thinking about everything that you need to learn for debate, you were going to extra practice for debate because she would take you to extra practice for debate and you would learn it like a skill.
And she loved every minute of it, that's for sure. And guys, I'm talking with Erin Howell. She was Goldie 91 to 94. She's 95 graduate at Northview, and we're living some good old days. But Erin, I want to come. We've got just a couple more minutes, but I want to come current in thinking back of your experiences in high school and representing our school. Share with us a little bit of some of those life lessons that maybe you shared with your children or that you may share with your daughter this upcoming year. Just some things that have stuck with you all these years that you learned from the ups and downs of Northview.
Well, it's like I tell my daughter when because she's involved in so much, she's like to the point of sometimes you can't do it. And I think back of my 9th grade year coming into the big school and saying, ooh, can I do this? This mascot thing's fixing me really hard. And so I think back to doing all that going, you can, because I went in there not knowing what to do, how to do it, and I did it. And I did it for 4 years. And I don't think there's anything that you can't do because you got to learn somehow. And so that's kind of how I have done my life is you got to start somewhere to get somewhere. And that's kind of how I've dealt with my kids and everything. They're like, it's so hard in the beginning with everything with her, with show choir, my son with ROTC. And I'm like, start somewhere. You'll learn. You'll get it. You just got to keep on.
Everybody has an origin story. You're going to fail much more than you're going to succeed when you start out, but that's with everything in life. It's so rare that someone who begins an endeavor immediately is just awesome at it and they go on to whatever they do. But I think that those who persevere, those who just keep trying and keep pushing forward, particularly if you have goals and especially if you're enthusiastic about what you're doing, and clearly your time as being Goldie is that example right there.
Loved it.
I know that you're very proud of that time. I know you made your mother extremely proud during that time period.
Yes, sir. Loved every second of it. It was the best time of my life. I wouldn't change it for the world. And if I had to go back, I'd be like, yes, Miss Andrews, I'm going to do it every year. And it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be great. Just let me do it.
All right, let me get you out of here in 2 minutes, but I got a couple of questions. Did you, over those 4 years, whether it was with basketball or football, during the time that you're doing your thing during the games, were you able to follow the games at all, or were you too busy being Goldie?
No, I followed the games because I love football in general. So I thought football all the time was great. And every time something great would happen, even if something bad would happen, I'd turn around and watch it. And I'd be sitting there with my pom-poms going, yay, or in my face that nobody got to see. I was going, oh no, we lost that yard and we needed it to go to the playoffs. And things like that. You know, I loved it and I lived it and I wouldn't change that for the world.
Well, I know your buddies who were on the football team and on the field especially appreciated that during that time period as well, knowing you were another and maybe the best cheerleader at the time
And I loved it personally, like back in the day. They don't do this anymore because I've gone to plenty of games now to see around here, at least they don't, is when they pick up like Kendrick Jernigan and just throw him across, to get that touchdown. They throw him across just to get the points, and they don't do that anymore. And I miss that because I always thought that was great when I turned around and watched them just pick up somebody and shove them and we get 6 points. I always thought it was great. But
well, I suspect this upcoming football season in Enterprise is going to be a particularly good one for your daughter and for you. And I wish you guys the very best. And I want to thank you, Erin, for sharing your journey and your story. And most importantly, that Cougar spirit that still lives within you.
yes, it's been a great ride. It was a great ride then, and I'd go do it tomorrow if somebody asked me. But here we are. So go Cougars anyway.
Guys, Erin is just the epitome of why I do these on Wednesday nights. These conversations with Cougars. We're telling the oral history of our program and a lot of times of our school. And this is why I keep doing these every Wednesday. And I've got a whole bunch of folks lined up coming up. So thank you again, Erin. And for those of you who watch live, all your great comments, and those who watch later on. And we'll see you next Wednesday night for another conversation with Cougars. Y'all have a good night.
Once a Cougar, always a Cougar. Woo!